All right, let's try something a little different today. We're going to push aside all those modern nutrition labels for a minute and explore a completely different way of looking at food. Our guidebook for this journey is Chapter 6 of the Ashtanga Hridya, a really ancient text all about health and living a long life. It's a system that looks way beyond just the chemical parts of our food and dives into its very essence, its energetic impact. You know, we're so used to thinking about food in terms of what's inside. How many calories, how much protein, what's the vitamin count? But is that really the whole story? What if the energy and the inherent qualities of our food matter just as much, maybe even more? Well, some ancient wisdom suggests there's a much, much deeper layer to everything we eat. And this slide really breaks down that fundamental difference. On one hand, you have modern nutrition, which is all about analyzing the chemical building blocks of food, but Ayurveda, it's looking at the built-in qualities of a substance and how those qualities interact with our own unique bodies. So it becomes less about counting grams and way more about the energetic effect food has on us. So let's get right into the heart of this philosophy. The central idea is that everything in the universe, and that includes every single thing we could possibly eat, is made up of a combination of these fundamental properties or qualities. And these aren't just some abstract ideas, they have a real tangible effect on our bodies and our minds. This core concept is called guna. There are 20 of them in total, and they're usually organized into 10 pairs of opposites. So think heavy versus light or hot versus cold. According to Ayurveda, a food that is inherently heavy will promote a feeling of heaviness in your body, while a light food promotes lightness. It's this really elegant system of balancing forces. Okay, so let's see how this whole philosophy actually applies in the real world, with some examples straight from the text. We're going to start with a staple of diets all around the globe, grains. But through the Ayurvedic lens, not all grains are created equal. Nope, their qualities are distinct and incredibly powerful. The text describes wheat as guru, meaning heavy, and snigdha, meaning oily or unctuous. Does that ring a bell? I mean, think about that deeply satisfying, grounding feeling you get from a bowl of pasta or a nice warm piece of bread. Ayurveda says that feeling comes directly from these qualities. It's even described as being enlivening and, get this, having the power to help heal fractures because of its building nature. Now let's contrast that with barley. While it's also considered heavy and cold like wheat, the huge difference is its quality of ruksha, or dry. So where wheat is oily and building, barley is seen as having a much drier quality. The text even notes it can increase vata, which is the Ayurvedic principle tied to air and movement in the body. And that makes perfect sense given its dry nature, right? Of course, it's not just about grains. The Ashtanga Hridya gives us this incredibly detailed analysis of all kinds of foods, including things like soups and meats, and it views them as these potent carriers of very specific energies and qualities. Just take meat soup, or mamsa rasa. In this system, it's seen as so much more than just a source of protein. The text describes it as deeply, deeply nourishing and satisfying. It's even said to be good for your vision and powerful for healing internal wounds and ulcers. We're talking about a true restorative tonic here. Now, for a lighter but still really healing option, the text gives a big thumbs up to mudgo supa, or green gram soup. It's singled out as being especially good for people who are recovering from an illness or maybe have sensitive digestion. This really shows you how Ayurveda isn't a one-size-fits-all approach at all. It's all about tailoring food recommendations to very specific conditions and needs. Okay, this is where things get really fascinating. Because beyond just what we eat, the Ashtanga Hridya puts a huge amount of importance on how we eat. And this includes some pretty surprising rules about combining foods and what to drink after a meal that might just challenge some of our modern habits. This is the whole concept of Varuda Ahara, which basically means incompatible food combinations. The text warns that if you mix foods with contradictory qualities, it can seriously overwhelm your digestion and even create a toxic effect. So for example, all sour things are considered a no-go with milk. Same with fish and milk. And you shouldn't drink milk after eating radishes. One of the most famous rules, never, ever consume honey and ghee mixed together in equal amounts. And just as important as these combinations is the concept of anupana, or the after drink. Now, this isn't just grabbing a random beverage. It's a specific liquid chosen very carefully to complement the qualities of the meal you just ate. It helps with digestion and balances its effects on your body. And the text is incredibly specific about this. After a heavy meal of wheat or barley, cold water is recommended. But after you've had something like yogurt or honey, warm water is better.
For a lean person who wants to gain some substance, beer is suggested as an afterdrink, while for an obese person, honey-mixed water is the way to go. It just shows this really sophisticated, logic-based approach to every single part of eating.
So, after all these rules and qualities, you might be asking, what can we eat regularly? Well, the text actually gives us a handy list of staple foods that are considered wholesome enough for habitual consumption. This includes things like specific types of rice, wheat, barley, meat from arid regions, ghee, milk, honey, and even rock salt. And this all brings us to a final thought. What if we looked at our next meal not just as a collection of macros and vitamins, but as a source of energy and qualities? Instead of asking how many calories, what if we asked, is this food heavy or light? Is it heating or is it cooling? This ancient perspective suggests that by really understanding the inherent nature of our food, we might just make more intuitive choices that truly nourish us from the inside out.